Welcome to the Danguage podcast. I am your host, Tien, on your right screen, Ethan on the very left. Ethan, who do we have here today?
Friends, we have some very special guests with us. As you notice, we had 2 female guests last week as well, and we've come back with 2 more female guests, so big representation too.
Where has Danguage been, man?
Bring back the old Danguage. Anyway, we have our friends Sarah and Annabel with us. It's a real joy to have you guys. We're looking forward to this episode, I think. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see at the end.
Okay.
Let's help everyone get to know you a little bit. So, Sarah, well, I've already spoiled you guys' names, but what do you do during the week?
Well, up until last week, I was at uni. Yes, I did a Bachelor of Arts, majored in linguistics and biblical studies. I finished my assignments, finished my exams. So I technically am done unless I fail, in which case I would have to.
And then do you know roughly what you're going to be doing next year?
Yes. I don't know if I can talk about it, but you know what? If I can't talk about it, you can bleep it out.
Wait, what? Okay.
Go for it.
Yes. No, so I've applied to join the ADF. That is my that's my plan to be a linguist in the Navy. So if that works out, that is what I will be doing next year.
Not a soldier.
God, me?
Yeah.
A soldier? Can you imagine that? Carrying like a 20 kg backpack and hiking through mud. Hell no.
Backpack. Sorry, I can't do it. I won't do this. I won't do it.
No, you are not cutting that out. I'll
keep that in, but I won't do it anymore. Okay, Annabelle. Can you intro yourself, please?
I study nursing. Well, I have like one assignment left, but then I'm done. So same as Sarah. If I don't fail anything, then I will be a nurse next year. That is the hope. Woo! Yep.
Awesome. All right, Tian, can you tell us why these guys are here, or how do we know them?
Bro, these guys. I mean, I don't even remember how I met Sarah, but how I remember Annabelle was it was ANCON last year, 2024. And we were just sitting at one of the tables. All the boys were there, and then Annabelle just rocks up, just one lone girl. And she just rocks up on our table, like we're in discussion group. I'm like, oh, hi. And then she's like, hello. And then she, and then I was like, yo, what up? And then she's like, yo. And then we've been just vibing since that. And and then I remember start of this year, EU, the Christian Society at UCID, were doing a Meet Jesus, or actually just like the start of the year with EU, just like EU stores. And then Annabelle was helping out, and then she was like, oh, I have a friend, like this is my friend Sarah. I'm like, hello. And then she was like hello. And then I was like, what the heck? And then basically, if you guys want a quick explanation of these 2 girls, Sarah is a small version of Annabelle, and Annabelle is a big version of Sarah. And so
Wait.
and that's all you gotta know, okay?
Real.
Ethan, how did you meet these guys?
Wait, so you don't know? You don't remember how you met this one? The other one?
I think I met Sarah at like the start of the year, or did I not? Did I meet you earlier?
Do you remember, Sarah?
I think I've known of your presence because it's quite hard to
It's hard
ignore you.
in many ways.
I remember when you were bald.
Hey, I remember that.
that's-
You were bold.
That's another story.
Yeah, and I was like, this guy
I
is
was bald
trouble.
too, you know?
Yep. At the same time?
No,
No,
back
Ethan's-
in the day.
Back in the day.
I can show you the photos.
Yeah, later.
Show me.
Patreon episode.
Yeah.
That's what you'll see. How did I meet you? Annabelle, I remember it was at the start of it was like basically the first week of uni, or first year for me. I think so.
Wow.
We met through a mutual friend who introduced us at like a lunch one time. And then I was on the train home and I saw both of them again. And somehow Annabelle managed to convince me that she was studying computer science, even though I know for a fact you can't tell the difference between probably, I don't know,
What? Come 2020.
Firefox and Chrome or something. I don't know how tech inclined you are, but yeah, I don't know. I was a bit gullible then, but then
Yep.
I got to know Annabelle since then, and she's come to church with me as well
Yep.
recently. And Sarah, I think, do you remember? Maybe it was at a meeting for Beach Mission.
Yeah, it's either
possibly.
Beach Mission or launch day, but I think it was Beach Mission.
That's right. So we served on the Beach Mission team last year, and we met at one of the meetings for it. And then how do you guys know each other?
In the womb.
In the womb.
Yep.
We're womb buddies.
Yeah.
But different wombs.
Oh, thanks for clarifying. Can you elaborate?
Yes, our parents have been friends since before we were born. Like I think our dads, they didn't go to uni together because, I don't know. But somehow mutual friends, they've been friends for ages. And so our parents had kids around the same time.
Yeah.
So Annabelle's older brother and my older sister, the same age, and Annabelle and I are the same age, and so we've been buddies since we were born.
And Sarah's mum evangelized my mum, and then that's how my family's Christian.
This is crazy.
So
I didn't know that either.
Yep. Well, that's the lore. Exactly.
That's pretty awesome.
Yes.
All right. Any other things we should do, or should we get straight into the game?
Let's get up Ethan GPT.
Okay, so one of the members here, I won't name, is not familiar with how we play the game. So basically, the way that it works, Sarah, is that
We don't need to name drop, bro.
basically I'm going to tell you a Bible story, but it's going to be in a new context, right?
Right.
Probably modernized, and
Alright.
it's designed to be cryptic, so that you have to figure out what I'm originally referring to. Okay, I think this one's. Actually, every time I say
every
that,
time.
I
You
say
always
that.
say that.
I'm just gonna read it, okay?
Yep.
I'm just gonna read it. Actually, I wrote this one. I didn't ask ChatGPT this one.
Use
Okay.
your brain.
It's called The Promotion.
Oh.
Ethan's smiling.
Everything
guys.
is a promotion.
The Promotion. Okay,
Yep.
ready? You have to pay attention to this one.
Yes.
There is a middle-level manager up for the position of CFO at a big firm, and he's basically guaranteed to get the job. He's known around the firm for his classy attire and expensive suits. Oh, by the way, don't say the answer until the end.
Got it. Wait,
until the end of the whole
episode?
episode. Yeah.
Episode.
Okay.
He's known around the firm for his classy attire and expensive suits.
Oh, I think it.
However, at the interview, the manager's assistant shows up instead, dressed up in a fancy pinstripe suit he borrowed from a friend. The interviewer, who doesn't actually know what the manager looks like, gives the assistant the job instead. Okay.
Real.
Do you want me to read it again?
I think I know it.
One more time.
Yes.
And no interruptions, please.
Sorry.
There is a middle-level manager up for the position of CFO at a large firm, and he's basically guaranteed to get the job. He's known around the firm for his classy attire and expensive suits. However, at the interview, the manager's assistant shows up instead, dressed in a fancy pinstripe suit he borrowed from a friend. The interviewer, who doesn't actually know what the manager looks like, gives the assistant the job instead. Does that make sense, by the way? It all makes sense?
I think so.
It does,
Okay,
it does.
don't say what it is yet.
I don't know the story, bro.
Do you guys have any ideas, though?
Yes.
You think you know what it is? You think you know what it is?
I feel like I do.
Dang, I don't know.
I feel like you guys might have got it. Anyway, we'll let it brew with
Okay.
the viewers as well,
Got it.
listeners, and you guys too, and then we'll come back to it at the end.
Ethan, you know, for this episode, we actually didn't choose the topic this time. Actually,
Was
the
that true?
guest.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the guest. The guest came in guns blazing on this one.
Yup.
Okay.
Ethan, what are we going to be talking about today?
Do you guys want to tell us what we're going to be talking about today, maybe?
Yeah.
Yep. 3, 2, 1. Holiness.
Holiness. So,
Yeah.
basically, if you have listened to episode 4, where we talk about what it means to live as a Christian, I believe we mentioned for a short period about the word holiness, or the word holy. And so we didn't touch on it heaps in that episode, but we figure that it's a massive topic to talk about because it extends so far past just ourselves and how we're meant to live, but actually we can see it across the whole Bible. I think it refers to kind of God, and different people are referred to as holy, the angels, different places like heaven, and objects. And so it seems like it's intertwined throughout the whole Bible story. And so I guess we are here today to try and figure out what it's all about. So I guess I don't know, unless you guys have any other thoughts, maybe we'll figure out what holy kind of refers to when people talk about it like these days, just so we can get a sense of where we're coming from, I guess what we're addressing.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna add. Sorry, we can say okay. I feel like holiness is like such a key attribute to God that I feel like not many people, like when you think of God, you think of love, mercy, justice, and like those are like big attributes, especially for a non-Christian perhaps. And I mean, like they're relatable, you know, like everyone wants to be loved, justice, no one wants to be wronged, sort of thing. But I feel like holiness is also such a key attribute that like explains our relationship with God and like who we are. Like in like God and then who we are. And like holiness definitely flashes out. So I think it's like a really important topic to talk about, to understand.
Yeah, I do think actually that holiness helps you to understand many other things that don't actually seem related.
Yeah.
But often you can come back to knowing what holiness is to see like, what decision should I make here, for instance. So yeah.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say something before, Tian? Or?
No, I was gonna say let's break it down.
Okay. So where's the most common place you hear the word holy when someone says it these days? What do you think?
Holy moly.
Swear. Oh wow, I was gonna say that, but
Gotta
like
have that on this
the
Christian podcast.
non-PG version.
Yeah.
Make sure to leave that one out.
I'll leave that one out. Holy smokes.
Holy cow.
Holy cow. That's right. What do you think that even like comes from? I don't even know. I didn't look into this much.
I don't know, bro.
I don't know.
I guess it's just a general like religious relation to a lot of big exclamations. Like when people say Jesus or,
Yeah.
oh my God. Or,
Probably. I feel like a lot of people use like religious words.
Yeah, I'll
That's
have to
swear
bleep all
word.
this stuff out, by the way. Sacrilegious.
I'm not liking this. This is my co-host, man.
Oh, apart from that, where else
Oh,
do people
sorry.
use, or what's holy associated with, do you reckon? What's the common understanding of the word holy, do you think?
I feel like, okay, yes, in a Christian context, yes, but I think that it can also be an insult for a lot of,
Okay.
in a secular sense. It's like, oh, why are you being so holy? Like, oh, you don't drink, you don't smoke. Why are you being so holy for? And so it's kind of, I feel like it's associated with people who are like party poopers or like who don't want to do things that the world wants to do.
Yeah, like goody two shoes kind of thing.
Yeah. Or like a holier than thou. Is that the saying?
Yep.
Type vibe where people. Well, it's like when people are like, oh, I'm better than you because I do more good works than you. So that can
yes.
also be like, I'm looking down upon you. I feel holier than thou. Type vibe. Yeah, that can be very damaging too.
Yeah. Any other ways you think the word holy is used? I don't know if I can think of any. No. Okay. Let's get into the Bible then,
Yes.
or a Christian frame of holiness. I think. Oh, Tian, did you want to do any more framing of why we want to talk about holiness before we get into it?
Yeah. I think just wanted to like bring up why is it so important to talk about the word holy. I think definitely in a Christian sense you hear about like Jesus and being saved and all that, but actually what does this all have to do with God being holy and like we needing to be holy? Like I think I'll just shoot a question to you guys, like why is it so important to think about holiness in that aspect?
Well, the word holy, it comes from the Hebrew letters Kof, Dalet, and Shin, and it
Linguistics,
means
bro.
Oh, that's crazy.
no, that's biblical studies, guys. The word itself, it means to be set apart and to be consecrated. And I think that is at the core of what holiness means. Like it's not like an act. It's not something that you do. You don't be holy by being holy. It's an identity thing. And so as Christians, we know that, in Leviticus, God calls the Israelites and he calls them to be a holy people. And so he calls them to be consecrated and to be set apart from the rest of the nations around them that, would do really unholy and really, terrible things. And so that is the calling of God's people, I think, to be set apart and to be consecrated and to be different from the rest of the world.
Yeah, and I mean, like, just to be a Christian as well it's about knowing who God is, and that's knowing holiness. Knowing holiness is kind of knowing who God is. So you said a lot of words there, Sarah. Let's lay some definitions down.
All right.
So let's start what we think holiness is. You mentioned being set apart, and then any other things you think would fit into holiness?
I think consecration is a big word.
Consecration.
Yeah.
Anything else? I've written down here, I reckon it's to do with being completely devoted to God and glory of God, I think. And then how would you define what consecration is, which is what you're talking about? Or sanctification maybe is another word people might have heard. What do you guys reckon?
I feel like sanctification is like a continual process of like, there is like this graph thing. I don't know if I can explain it. Okay, but when when you first become a Christian, you're justified, which you explained in which episode?
Many of them probably.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the justified, never sin type vibe. So that's when you've accepted Jesus.
We did that bit, remember?
Yes.
Keep going.
Okay, but that is when, like, that moment you've repented from your sins, you've turned around and you're like, yes, Jesus is my Lord and Savior, and you've accepted forgiveness. So that's like sort of justification. That's when you start to become a Christian. And then there's like sanctification that continues until Jesus comes again. So that's like, we still live in this box, like timeline where it's like, Jesus has come, he has died on the cross, forgiven us, but we still live in a broken world. But like throughout this broken world, we're still called to be holy. So that's like the continued sort of renewing of ourselves. But we have been forgiven. And then when Jesus comes again, that's when we'll have like a new body. What is that process? Is there a last one? Glorification. Yes.
Yeah, I think after hearing like what you were saying, I think, yeah, it's like the idea of when you first confess Jesus as Lord, like you are saved at that moment and you will go to heaven if Jesus came back the next day. But I think this ties into episode 4 where we talked about like, yeah, what does it mean to live out being a Christian? And so holiness is that big aspect, and it's like a persisting pursuit to like be holy and continue to grow in holiness. And so holiness, from what I'm hearing from everyone as well, I think they would agree, is like being set apart. And so what does it mean to be set apart? I think you got to understand what are we being set apart from, and that being holy means being set apart from the world. And so what the world thinks is good and all that. Basically, if you follow the Bible or just follow Jesus, you're naturally going to be holy, because by following Jesus is apart from the world. Jesus is holy. Jesus is far from the world. And so when you follow Jesus, you're naturally going to be following and becoming holy by following his ways. But yeah, as Christians, and even now, like there are times when the world does fog our minds, and sometimes we tend to forget. But that's the whole point of being here on this podcast and just talking about Jesus, making sure we understand why it's so important to be holy.
So sanctification or consecration, process of like becoming holy in a sense that you talked about. And then I guess quickly, when the Bible talks about a saint, maybe you've heard of a saint, I think it's helpful to understand that as someone who has been made holy or been consecrated or been sanctified, they're a saint. So we would probably say that we are saints because we are being made holy as well. Okay, so you mentioned about how following Jesus makes us holy. I think I want us to kind of explain more about what that means, because I think a helpful way to think about it is understanding that God is holy. And so if God is holy and following God's commands makes us more holy, does that come from just being set apart from the world, or is it something actually about God that is sanctifying us? So I think we should start by looking at the holy God, right? And so I'm going to read a passage for you guys and I'll ask a question, all right? So this comes from Isaiah chapter 6. It's a vision of God. I'll read the whole thing actually. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord seated on a throne, high and exalted, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphs, each with 6 wings. We'll skip a bit of that. And they were calling to one another, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory." At the sound of their voices, the doorposts and thresholds shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. "Woe to me," I cried, "I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty." So the question I actually want to ask out of that is, how does that challenge the idea that we talked about of people's understanding of the word holy, of being someone who is a good kind of rule follower? How do you think that this representation of holiness challenges that a little bit? Or if you have any other insights coming out of that passage?
Yeah, I feel like earthly knowledge of holiness is just a broken knowledge, like in terms of they're good but they're not good enough type thing. So it's like they're good but they're also hypocritical sort of thing. And so it's like a self-esteem sort of thing. But I feel like from this passage, I feel like it shows, I really like the explanation of holiness as like the sun, or like being holy. To be holy is like the sun, where it is like the sun, it's good. So it gives life, it gives light, it gives heat. Like you need it to survive. Like it's a very good thing. But if we are to come too close to it, we die. because of like our state. And I feel like you can see that here. Where it's like, it's so good, and then it shows who we are, that we're just not good people and we're very finite people. I don't know if that was a good explanation.
No, that makes sense. It's like the idea that when Isaiah comes and he sees God's holiness and he beholds it, his first response is repentance. He understands that he's a sinner and that he's not fit to stand in God's presence. And so he straight away is like, oh, woe is me, I'm a man of unclean lips. And my eyes have, seen like God in all of his holiness. And so I think that tells us what our response should be when we're confronted with God's holiness.
Yeah, he's not fit to be in the presence because there's something about God that he is not. And so I think that could be another helpful way to think about it. Another thing, I won't read the passage, but 1 Timothy 6, 15 and 16. And then out of that is a reflection from, do you guys know Jim Packer, the writer? He wrote a book called Knowing God. This is such a very relevant,
Right.
Anyway, he says that the holiness in the Bible as a word applied to God the Creator means first everything that sets him apart from us men and makes him different. So it's just all the things that God is that we and all created things are kind of not. Yeah. So I think it's like more than just the radiance of his goodness, but also just everything glorious about who God is and how that's different to what we are.
Yeah, I feel like holiness is like the fundamental characteristic of God that you have to understand in order to understand any part of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if God isn't holy, then he can't be completely loving, and he can't be completely just, and he can't be completely merciful. Because God being holy means that he is incapable of sin. And so if he's not holy, then he can't love us wholly,
This is for the Shorts channel where we just...
we need some W bits.
Yeah. And if like God's not holy, he can't be purely just. You can't trust that his justice is actually just.
Yeah.
And we can't trust that his mercy is actually merciful. And so it's until we get to the root of it and understand, okay, this is the very nature of God, to be holy and to be different, then we can like start to understand the different aspects of God that make God God, I think.
Yeah. So I guess like what you're saying, Sarah, is the idea of how, when we look at who God is, at the fundamental, at the very root, at the base of it, it's holiness, right? And so because God is holy, God is set apart from everything else. God can act in a way that is all loving, all merciful, all caring, all everything basically, except for all sinful. Or you know what I'm saying? Like, just to make sure that's clear. Yeah, definitely. Ethan, any thoughts?
I think you mentioned things about him being all just. So how do you think God's holiness fits in with the idea of judgment and punishment? Or where do we see that kind of idea in the Bible where people, I don't know, maybe they die because of something to do with God's holiness? Any specific examples you can think of that help people to see where that is in the Bible? Maybe.
I think of the ark when Uzzah, when the Israelites are walking and then the oxen stumble and the ark of God's about to hit the floor, and so Uzzah puts his hand out and tries to lift it up, and then God strikes him down because of that. And it's like, we're like, dude, he was trying to help out, man. But then, like, why'd he die? And I think that speaks a lot to God's character and his holiness and how he's like, he doesn't compromise on his holiness for humans. And we see, like, I think we tend to fixate on these moments we see in the Bible where God is like, we think he's being unfair, like this example. But I think that we often don't focus on the areas of the Bible where God is way more merciful than he is just. Like, there are more instances of God being merciful to his people than there are of him executing justice and judgment in a right way.
I see.
Yeah, so I think maybe we just, as humans, naturally we tend to pick out all of the flaws that we think like shouldn't be that way, when in reality, like, God actually is so merciful to us. And so him working out his justice, like, who are we to question that,
Yeah. And I feel like it's something that we, as humans, I don't think we'll ever understand. Like, fully understand how he's perfectly just, but perfectly merciful as well. Like, those two things, I just like for human understanding, like, we could probably come up with a million analogies, but I don't think we'll be able to ever perfectly understand that. But I feel like that comes to, like, the holiness or, like, the set apartness of God. Like, he's so different.
And if we understood it, we'd be God, right?
Yeah. And even just, like, the blazing, like, incomprehensibility of, like, I don't think we'll ever, as humans, understand why would I die if I touch Mount Sinai, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't seem like something that makes sense. And yeah, it's so real. It's a vivid picture in the Bible.
Yeah. Wait, and just like coming back to it, when we see instances of God being just in the Bible and executing his judgment, it's never out of nowhere.
Yeah.
He always gives instructions to his people. Like they were told that the Ark of God was holy and that people were not to touch it. And so there was a warning there, but he still did it. Like it was from the goodness of his heart, sure. But like the warning was there to not do so, and he still did it. And that's why we see God executing his judgment in that way.
Yeah, so sometimes like, I guess what I'm seeing is like, yeah, the world always imposes their opinions on who God is. But yeah, I think if we understand, how God is holy and how God created the world, God makes himself clear. God has to be or like 100% just, and by doing that, he is all merciful because he cares for his people. He tells his people, guys, if you do this, GG's. And then what happens? Bro, they touch it. What do you expect? What do you expect? You know what I'm saying? But that idea of, I think, human input onto who God is, that's not right, because God is out of our understanding. He only makes himself known through the word or through the Bible, because that's who he is. God doesn't people don't magically imagine who God is and then that's who God is. God makes himself clear from day one. And so when God acts in the Bible and you see all this death and judgment, that's God being true to who he is. And if he's true to that, then he is true to being all loving and all these other things as well.
Yeah. Another point I want to bring up actually is to do with our definition for holiness. So if it's something to do with being set apart, complete devotion to God and his glory, do you think that definition also applies when we're talking about God's holiness as well? Would you say that God is devoted to himself and his glory? Because I would argue actually, yes.
Yeah.
I think so. What do you guys think? Because like when you originally read that definition, you're like, oh yeah, that's just how I think a holy person would act. But then actually I want to challenge that and be like, I think we can apply that to God as well. Is that what God is working to do? He's devoted to his plan and his glory. Would you agree or disagree?
I feel like I would agree. I mean, like, if it's part of his genuine character, and because God is so, like, never changing as well, like, for us to be holy is just the most, like, a mess. Like, we're such changing people in such a changing environment sort of thing. But, like, God is just so stable. And, yeah, so I would say he is very devoted to his character of holiness. But, like, that is also just who he is.
What about glory? What do you reckon? Do you reckon God's working for his own glory?
Yeah, you got to explain glory, bro.
Glory. What do you guys reckon glory means?
Ooh.
What's a word you could use to compare it to, maybe?
I always think like amazingness.
Amazingness? Thinking like exaltation or exalt?
Yeah, that's
to
what I
raise
was
something up?
thinking, like to glorify or to give glory to. Yeah. To lift
Can't use the
something
word
up.
in the definition.
Sorry. So real. Yeah. Wait, how does that relate to holiness? Glory.
So if holiness is being set apart with devotion to God and his glory, do you agree or disagree? What do you think? Because I think that the idea of glory actually is relevant to holiness.
Guys.
The reason I bring this up is because I think it relates to talking about Jesus. So should we segue there, and then maybe it'll make more sense?
Wait,
Yeah.
let me just make
Oh,
something clear, guys. Ethan has gone crazy. Right. Now I agree with Ethan. I think you challenging our understanding of if being holy means being set apart and being completely devoted to God. I think it's fair for God to, in that definition, also be devoted to himself in the same sense where it's like, well, God has a plan, and so why wouldn't God be 100% like stuck in his own plan? Like, it kind of makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
If God is holy, that means God's 100% like doing what he does best. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it makes sense. But I think we can definitely segue to Jesus and see, how this makes sense.
And I mean, the reason that glory comes in is because if you think about like the whole story of the Bible, all the plan of it, if you think about why did God do his plan like this, the answer that you can rely on, even if you don't know all the specifics, is to glorify God, right? He's saving people so that they can be in his glory and he can be glorified. Right. So let's come to, I want to read out a passage and then we'll talk about it.
Yes.
Right. So this comes from John 17. It's a prayer from Jesus to the Father. And it's 5 verses. He says, he looked towards heaven and he prayed, Father, the time has come. Glorify your Son, that your Son may glorify you. For you granted him authority over all people, that he might give eternal life to all those you have given him. Now this is eternal life, that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. I have brought you glory on earth by completing the work you gave me to do. And now, Father, glorify me in your presence with the glory I had with you before the world began. So, we've been talking a lot about God, his unapproachability because of his holiness, right? We saw it in the Old Testament with the ark and also Mount Sinai where they couldn't touch the mountain or they'll perish. How does Jesus fit in? How does Jesus fit in to the holiness of God or to God's glory? Any thoughts at all?
I think Jesus is the manifestation of God's holiness in a person. So Jesus is God's holiness personified, because he was the only person who was holy as his people are, but he was the only one who was able to live that out perfectly because he was fully God and fully human. And so he showed us what a holy life looks like, and we'll never be able to live that life as he did because we're not God and because we live in a fallen world. But he's like the standard, the benchmark that we compare ourselves to.
Yeah.
And by doing that, like, I guess it exalts or just gasses up God. Guys, let's do some W lingo.
Yeah.
All right. But by Jesus living a perfect life, I guess Jesus shows humanity what it could look like if we all followed the way he did, to then actually point to God is and God's great character. And like, honestly, guys, if you look at Jesus does everything good, and so it just shows that, like Sarah said, in a broken world, like Jesus just sticks out like a bright old sun, right? Like by doing that, of course people are attracted to that, and then that's how we get to know God even better, and like see how amazing God is, exalting, gassing, all this stuff. It just basically shows how God is such a great God, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Jesus also, if you think about what was his point of coming to earth, it was to die for sin and to rise again. And actually in that process, we talked about it in many of the episodes, but it's to bridge this gap that we observed before, where we as a people, and if you look at the Old Testament, the Israelites as well, is something we can use this image of clean and unclean, where they couldn't actually be in God's presence because of their state.
Yeah.
But Jesus completely changes this, flips on its head, right? And so now, because of Jesus, we can actually attain this sense of holiness, which means that we can be in God's presence. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like that's what makes Jesus so radical as well. Like in terms of like, because if you keep reading the Old Testament, it'll be like how much like we're just not able to come close to God. So they were like in Leviticus, in a lot of the Old Testament, there were so many precise things that they needed to do in order to get close to God. So they made this little, like God gave them instructions, made this little ark, and then God God dwelled in the most holy place, sort of thing. But like even that was not enough. They had to keep on sacrificing again and again. And so like the fact that Jesus comes and is perfect, and like because of what he does, like we are able to like actually be in relationship and actually come close to the holiness. It's like that is like what is so crazy, that it's like I don't even know if we will ever like humanly be able to fully appreciate that ever, because it's like I don't even know if we will ever be able to fully understand how holy God is. And then that's what makes Jesus just so cool.
And I think the reason that I was pushing so hard on the glory thing, even though it seemed a bit unrelated, is because if you come to Romans 3, when you're talking about kind of exactly what Jesus has come to do, verse 23, for all man have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, right? Fallen short of the glory of God and are justified freely by his grace through the redemption that came by Christ Jesus. So it's something to do with us falling short of God's glory or his holiness, and that gap being bridged by Jesus, who has redeemed us, purified us through his sacrifice and rising again. Any other final thoughts on the idea of God's holiness, and then maybe we'll move on to something else.
We're good.
Are you good?
No, we're just like...
All right.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah.
So you said at the beginning that God, you mentioned Leviticus, so that said that God's people should be holy because he is holy. Now let's come to how that actually happens, right? So I think you were saying at the beginning that holiness isn't something that we can attain ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we want to help you guys to understand that holiness has no part of, or we have no part in the process of holiness, but actually all of it, 100% of it has come as a gift. Let's talk about holiness as a gift. What do you think that's so important? Or any ideas surrounding that?
Well, I think it's just like breaking it down in a sense like how does that make sense? How can holiness be a gift? Why can't we attain it? I think as humans naturally this mindset on life is just like, oh, I need to get this, I need to get a good career, I need to do all this. So it's all about what humans do or what we do to get something. But actually if you lay it out, if we are human and we are sinful, if we are not God, naturally by that we aren't perfect. And so how can we as imperfect creatures attain what holiness is, which is something completely separated from us? And so I guess breaking that down, we want to just appreciate the idea of how holiness is a gift, rather it's something like Annabelle said, you can't just do and get, bang. It's actually something that is received, we receive from. And so that was my note.
I had a question. I don't know. Yeah, this is just a question. But Adam and Eve, were they considered holy because they were with God, walking with God? And then was that holiness
You mean before the
broken?
fall?
Yeah,
Great
before
question.
the fall. I don't know if anyone has the answer.
Like if you
I just
compare it to, let's say, the new creation, would you mean like, is that the same level, do you mean, kind of thing?
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always, this is like
Yeah.
the off the record kind of, I'm not asserting a theological position on this, but it's kind of like,
Questioning.
I imagine that if you think about it as like a level of holiness,
Yeah.
I think that whatever the level was in the Garden of Eden is actually, I think, lower than what the new heavens will be, just because of the sense that it's not God's plan in its fulfillment.
Okay, I see that.
Right, because if it was kind of up there, it doesn't seem like there's any sense of God's plan having any significance at all. Anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts on that. What do you guys think? I don't know.
Did you want to say something, Sarah?
Yeah, I feel like holiness as we understand it would have looked very different in the Garden of Eden before the fall, because there was nothing to be set apart from.
Yeah.
Right? Sin hadn't entered the world, and so they just existed.
Yeah.
Like sin was like, it wasn't even a feasible concept. And so I think it's like they were probably just set apart from God because they weren't God.
Yeah.
And so when sin entered the world, that's when I think that we see commands where God tells his people to be different and to be set apart.
Yeah, I think just rolling off what Sarah said, I think just another thing is like the story of Genesis, Genesis 1 is really 1 to 3 is really just to show like how God created from chaos order, and then also creating Adam and Eve, humanity. The whole story of Adam and Eve is just to show a picture of ultimately what happened to humanity, and humanity sinned. So in regards to holiness, I'm not sure. I think it's more just important to understand the point of the story, and the story is that like, humanity sinned, and then now actually we get this new aspect of holiness in Leviticus, then now to Jesus, and then bonanzas. So
Yeah, I guess if you kind of think about it from like a glory perspective, then it seems like the glory of God is seen in its fulfillment in the new creation, not in a way that exists in the Garden of Eden. Don't know exactly how that makes sense, like if you kind of really try and think about it a lot. But anyway, if you want to just
Food for thought.
Yeah.
I'll just take a question.
think about that, or just ignore the last 3 minutes.
Comment down below.
Yeah. I think coming out of that, there's some helpful Bible passages to look at about holiness as a gift. So we won't, obviously there's a very long section I've got here, talking through Ephesians chapter 1, the beginning. We're given a list of a lot of things that we've been given that kind of result from us being made holy through Jesus. So I'll just go through them quickly without actually reading them. So from Ephesians 1, it says, we're made holy and blameless before God. We are adopted to sonship. We have redemption and freedom from the imprisonment of sin. And we have revelation. God's made his will through Jesus known to us. I think the key actually out of that is not just those things, but in fact, what we have done to receive them. And so if you kind of follow along in that order and see the ways in which we receive those things, we can see that God chose us before the foundation of the world. He has predestined us. It's all in him, in Christ, according to the riches of God's grace. It's for his purpose, which he set forth in Christ. So there's this huge idea in Ephesians chapter 1 of it being all in Christ and actually completely nothing to do with us and how we've attained any sort of glory or sanctification, anything like that.
Yeah, you mentioned adoption to sonship, and I think that is like kind of key to understanding our holiness, because like we know that God is holy, and if we're part of God's family, if we're his children, you know, children inherit things from their parents. And so in the same way, we've inherited God's holiness. And so this is a gift that's been given to us. And so nothing that we do could make us more holy or less holy, because that is just our identity. And so it's not our actions. It's not doing the right thing that makes us holy.
She's cooking, guys.
Yeah, and doing the wrong thing doesn't remove our holiness from us. You know, we couldn't. It's like God's love for us. He doesn't love us less if we sin, and he doesn't love us more if we don't sin. And so I think holiness is kind of the same kind of idea. It's our identity.
So smart, bro. It's like that
Yeah,
marriage
it's not
one.
transactional. Oh, yes, and the marriage thing we talked about the other time.
What episode was that, Ethan?
I don't remember.
Let's if TLDR.
I'll overdub it.
If you're married, and then
Oh, I see. When you go on the honeymoon, if you're married and you have
Oh,
a
yeah.
fight on the honeymoon, you don't question the state of your marriage. Just like we don't question that. This is to do with faith, I think.
yeah,
We don't question the state of our faith, whether we have faith or not. We don't question the state of the marriage if you have an argument when you go on your honeymoon, but you just, things are disrupted, but you don't argue, now we're not married, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
So a lot of people, I think, like Sarah was saying, like a lot of people will try and equate like holiness or I'm holier than you, Annabelle, all this stuff. I think it's really good, Sarah, what you were saying about how holiness, being holy is an identity. And so same thing like the marriage idea where, we're all holy if we follow Jesus, if we believe in him. Because that's just it's what God gives to us as an inheritance. W's in the chat.
And yet there somehow is still a sense of being able to grow in holiness, which we'll come to later.
Yeah.
Yeah, hella confusing.
We'll come
The
to later. But
dichotomy.
Sarah, you mentioned something about us being a holy people. I'm going to use that as a segue to the next segment, which is, what does it mean to live as a holy people? I saw there's some extra things in here that I did not write. Do you want to share what your thoughts are from Leviticus?
Yeah. So looking at Leviticus, when God describes not even just the people, even the temple at that time, when he talks about the temple artifacts, there's kind of two aspects to these things being set apart and being holy. Like first they need to be, I think I wrote sanctified and then dedicated.
Separated and dedicated.
Separated and dedicated. And so they are like separated from the rest of the things. And then they are specifically dedicated for God's purposes. And so in the same way, that's what happens when we become holy. We are separated from the world. And then we are dedicated for the purpose of glorifying God. And so I guess that comes back to the glory thing that you were talking about and how that's really our purpose. And that's how we live out our holiness. It's by understanding that this is our purpose. Like, you know, this is why God created us. This is why he sent Jesus to die for us. And like holiness it's kind of at the very core of our identity.
Yeah.
She's speaking my language.
Peace. And I think it's pretty key that it's universal. This idea of holiness is not kind of only some people can attain it, but rather it's fundamental to being a Christian, which means that actually there's some sense of being holy as a people, and that's not just like a consequence, but it's something in that being holy as a people. So any ideas that come out of a holy, united church? Any noteworthy things? Kind of random question.
That come out of being.
Yeah, what's special about the community of holy people than just kind of the individuals themselves?
Yeah, I think like just we talked about it briefly, but like church in other episodes, just like the idea of like God's people gathering, I think it's just a great slice of what heaven will look like, being with other Christian brothers and sisters who are also set apart. I think by being at church or just being with other Christian brothers and sisters, I think it actually gives us a sense of like knowing what like how to live properly, I guess, as well. Because we look at each other and we look at the way we live, like others live, and if we're in community with one another and we're all striving to be holy, to be separate from the world, well, clearly when you're in community with them, you're more inclined and actually have more thoughts about how to live that way, instead of, unfortunately, like the rest of the world where they just live for themselves, all that stuff.
Yeah, I feel like living in community, like helping community out is just such a big part of like Christian life, I guess, as well. Like keeping each other accountable, and like working together in order to glorify God and like to sort of continue to like live out that identity of being holy. Like it is so difficult to do it by ourselves, and I feel like we're not created to live by ourselves individually. Like you see in the Garden of Eden, like Eve was created, and then even just like when they're sent out, like in the New Testament, when they're sent out, the disciples are sent out to like share the gospel. They're all like sent out in pairs and things like that. So I feel like just like having partnership with people it's so important, and it's also just such a gift that I feel like sometimes people can like look past. Like we do live in such a individualistic society right now. Everyone for themselves, make your own money, fend for yourself sort of thing. But it's so like such a gift to be able to be in community.
I feel like it's an important disclaimer to say that when we say that we are set apart as holy, we're not physically set apart from the world. Like we're not called to not socialize or not to be among non-Christians. I think we're called to be set apart with our desires, with our actions, and with the reason that we live our lives. And so we're not saying don't be friends with non-Christians, don't talk to non-Christians. You absolutely should, because how else would they know who Jesus is? But it's like, know at the end of the day who you are and who God has called you to be, and how that's different from the rest of the world.
And I feel like it's easy to also fall into the trap of the holier than thou attitude, being like, I'm holy because I have Jesus inside of me.
Even within Christian
like in Christian community, and that can definitely be a danger. I mean, again, we still live in a broken world. Like Satan is still finding ways in order to not have God's glory shown, sort of thing. So I think just constant, it comes with sanctification, just constantly being like, Lord, reveal to my heart, like, what are my motivations for doing XYZ? Is it because I want to show other people that I'm holy, or is it coming from my identity that I am holy? Like, that's why I'm actually doing it, which can be really hard as well. Sometimes it's actually hard to because sometimes I feel like there would be sort of thing. We live in a very broken world, but I think constantly reflecting is important.
And I feel like that's such an important thing to talk about, because it's like, if we're holy, why do we still sin? Like if we are already made holy, why do we still struggle with sin? Why do we still desire to sin? And I think those are important questions to answer, because until we go to be with Jesus, until the day that we leave this fallen world, like you mentioned earlier, we will continue to sin. So I think that we should talk about what it looks like.
I saw a surprising big new chunk in the outline about that. There's a passage you refer to, Romans 8, 9 to 11. Is that the one you have open, Tien?
Can you read it?
I read that this morning.
Can you read it?
Wow.
That's what I was like, oh, Sarah's cooking.
Jesus,
all right, so Romans 8, 9.
9 to 11.
9 to 11. Okay, I'll read it up. You, however, are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, if in fact the Spirit of God dwells in you. Anyone who does not have the Spirit of Christ does not belong to him. But if Christ is in you, although the body is dead because of sin, the Spirit is life because of righteousness. if the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you, he who raised Christ Jesus from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies through his spirit who dwells in you. Sarah, explain it. I'll explain it if you don't need it.
Okay, so I was at this young adults conference earlier this year, and this speaker was talking about holiness and the spirit and what it does in us. And he was talking about when we have the spirit in us, it's not like we suddenly have this like jetpack booster for our willpower. Like the spirit doesn't come in and take the reins and make us stop sinning. Like we will, we still have autonomy, we still have free will, we still have to make the choice to do the right thing. And so as nice as it would be to be like, oh, thank you God for giving me a spirit, I'm going to do the right thing, I'm going to make the right choices from now on. That's unfortunately not how it works. And so we've read that what the spirit does in us is that he's like our helper, he's our advocate. The spirit is one that reminds us that, hey, actually we have this resurrection power living in us. We have the ability to say no to sin because of what Jesus has done for us on the cross. And so the spirit is there as like, the angel on your shoulder to be like, hey, you can do this. Like, remember that you can make the right choices, that you are empowered to do so because of Jesus.
Yeah. And actually kind of only through the spirit are we able to reach out and desire what God desires. And without the spirit, it's actually, we're not able to be devoted to God as well.
Yeah. And I feel like the spirit pays like earlier we were talking about the revelation of being like, when you actually see who God is and how holy he is, you have that immediate reverence being like, oh my gosh, I'm so unworthy. Like the spirit plays a big part in that, and like having that revelation. So yeah. What do you want to say?
Last few thoughts is like, to make it clear, it's just like, if we are holy, why do we still sin? Romans 8:9-11 shows and explains to us how we are in a human body which is cursed with sin. And so because of that, because we're here on this earth, in our human bodies, we will sin, but it is the spirit within us that allows us to be righteous and to be holy. So it's just a continual, it's basically what Romans really shows to me is like, you're in constant 24/7 like fighting your body in a nutshell. Like God does reveal himself and God does show us the way to live proper. Our bodies unfortunately will continue to fight.
And a struggle against sin is kind of proof of the spirit, right? Because one that's comfortable in their sin, who doesn't see a problem with it, is one that doesn't have the spirit telling them or convicting them that is ungodly. Yeah, any other thoughts on that idea?
I don't know. Okay, it's related, but I was just going to say that like, I just hope that none of like talking about holiness and being holy, I hope that doesn't come off as being like, we think that we're very holy people, because I just wanted to also reveal that the struggle of sin is very hard. And like, okay, I can only speak for myself, but like, yes.
I second Annabelle.
Yes. Yeah. So it's like definitely a constant struggle and it is not easy, like at all.
Yeah, I drove here without my green pea plates on.
Oh, you just confessed NSW crime, bro.
Oh my gosh,
They don't know
someone
who I am.
report me. Oh dear.
Yeah, I think also another quick thing is just like, the idea of, if we keep talking about holiness and like how, we are holy, I think more importantly, as Christians, it's really important to confess your sins. I think we get stuck into this idea of, you got to be perfect, you got to be holy, you got to be great. But truth be told, Jesus says, guys, the whole reason I'm here is for you to confess your sins to me, so I can forgive you. I think if unfortunately this has happened to me, where I get into that mindset of why do I need it? Like I got to bring this like sin to my friends. Like I can't tell Ethan like I've sinned. Like it's terrible. But actually God tells us in the word to confess our sins, and even like talk to brothers and sisters about it, because I think that shows our humanness. That shows our understanding and position in this world. Because if we don't talk about any sin we do, that we become prideful in our character, and sometimes it's a very, very bad thing. And so, I mean, what's the word? But I think the idea of just, always making sure we confess our sin to Jesus and also sharing it with other brothers and sisters, because at the end of the day, like, everyone does sin. I sin, these guys sin. We're not perfect, like Annabelle said.
Nope.
Yeah. All right. I think that's important that we talked about that.
Yeah.
I just had a couple of final thoughts concerning the living holy as a people idea. I think there's some elements of relating with others that actually achieves God's glory in ways that aren't capable on our own. And so Hebrews 10, 24-25 talks about how we are to spur one another on to do good works. Ephesians 3, 10 and 11 talks about how through the church his wisdom is made known. 1 Peter 2 verse 9, which to declare his praises together as a people. And also just you're talking before about how kind of beautiful it is to have a picture of a church where the people are kind of committed to God, which means they're committed to each other. And I think just an example of that, I think the church in Acts 2, it's a beautiful picture of God's glory manifest in a church of people who are devoted to God, which means that they're devoted to each other and the people as a whole in a way that they kind of wouldn't be able to if it was just a very individual salvation idea. Alrighty. Let's move into... I'm going to read another verse and then we'll talk about how it kind of relates to the next bit.
Yep.
So Hebrews 12:14 says, make every effort to live in peace with all men and to be holy. Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. So make every effort, skip a couple of words, to be holy. There's some sense
Yes.
of the word effort here. It's kind of about doing something. We've kind of established that holiness kind of exists as a state, in some ways, but yet still there's an element of being able to grow in it. Help me. How to explain? What does that mean? How could both be true at the same time? Or what's a helpful way to understand it?
I think fundamentally it comes, all of our efforts to be holy has to come from a right understanding of God's holiness. We don't want to live or work out like a works-based faith where we're constantly doing good things to try to be more holy. But it's understanding and having the reaction and response that Isaiah had in Isaiah 6, being confronted with God's presence and God's character and understanding that actually we're not fit to be here. But really it's Jesus' good gift of grace that allows us to approach God's character. And so I think it should come from this place of gratitude and humility, being like, oh God, I really don't deserve to know you, to be loved by you, but still you give me this good gift. And so I think that's where holiness and our desire to be more holy should come from. It should come from trying to be more like Jesus, knowing God's character, knowing that he's loving and he's just and he's good and he's set apart from everything. And so we imitate him because of that.
Yeah. Our efforts to being holy is just like a reaction to his holiness. So like we see it and you're like, I'm so unholy. And it's so good because like the holiness is so good that you just like sort of
not being unholy is good, but
no. His holiness is good. We are ungood. And so it's like an instinct to be like, take everything and like let my life be holy. Yeah. I feel like I had another thought, but I forgot it.
Yeah, I think just to add on, it's just like, I think the main thing what I'm hearing is like, holiness is an identity. Holiness is something you don't compare with others, but actually you compare yourself to God, right? I think it's all this idea of remembering that we don't compare with each other, but we compare ourselves to God, and remember seeing like in Isaiah 6, like who God is. Wow, he's crazy. And so I think that idea of Hebrews 12:14 about striving continually to be holy, I think it's just, remembering how big and vast God's holiness is, and looking at ourselves and like, I can continue to keep striving to be holy at a level greater than I was before, because at the end of the day, there's always aspects of our lives that is sinful by nature. And so as a Christian, it's continually trying to put aside our old ways and put on the new self. Is that Ephesians? Colossians. There you go.
But elements of it, yeah.
But yeah, just that idea of continue, and that's what we're trying to say about like holiness, and how sort of holiness is like the identity, but also it's like you can be holier than you were before by the aspect of changing your life for Christ. Being more holy means setting your life more for God in a nutshell.
I wonder if it can be confusing to say be more holy, as if you could be less holy, or become more holy. But what if we think about it in the sense that when we think about being more holy, we think about living out our holiness more and more. And so not necessarily, increasing holiness or our points, but actually like knowing that we have this identity as holy people and then living it out.
So holiness's manifestation is helpful in kind of elevating it in a way.
It's not attribute points, bro.
Yeah. So there's some dimensionality to holiness. It's not just like kind of on and off kind of thing, but there's some sense in which it can grow, but it's nuanced, right? We have to understand it in a way. Okay, well, if we're going to think about how to grow in holiness, I think I'll read out a verse from Colossians, which I think is helpful in kind of getting a perspective that's good for someone who wants to be holy. So it comes from Colossians 3, the opening 4 verses. I'll read the whole thing because I think it's important. It says, "Since then you have been raised with Christ. Set your hearts on things above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. For you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory." So the reason I think this is awesome is because it gives us kind of the 3-stage past, present, future in how we can think about Jesus. If we look at verse 1, it says, "Since then you have been raised with Christ." So it's looking back about what we know Jesus has done on the cross. It's also got a sense of present. So set your hearts on things above. Set your minds on things above. For you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. But there's also a sense of the future, right? When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. So this is central to that, I think, is having Jesus in mind and what he has done for us and what he has called us to do, looking back, looking now, and looking forward. I think that's a helpful perspective when thinking about holiness. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like it's so, in the struggle with sin, it's very self-centered. Like everything is just looking towards myself. I've done wrong. I can't make up for the wrong that I've done, sort of thing. And like it's just like a downward spiral. So I feel like in that point, like written in the Bible, it's just like stop looking at yourself, but like look to God. And like that is where you get true like revelation of like who God is and like what my place is. Because so often we just put ourselves in God, if that makes sense. But it's not ever really to do with us. It's just how much God has loved us and how holy God is. Yeah.
And looking to Jesus
Yeah.
helps us to understand the new self. So if you keep reading that chapter in Colossians 3, we get all the images of the old self, parts of it we have to take off, and then the new self and parts of it we to put on. And the key to understanding that is to look at Jesus, I think.
Yeah.
Real.
Any other things about growing in holiness?
Maybe let's talk about like how we can grow in holiness.
Yeah? Some practical tips maybe? I don't know.
Practical tips.
I've wrote some things down here. These came straight out of the sermon
Yeah.
that we had last year about holiness. So some helpful things is a motivation, to be motivated by grace instead of guilt.
Grace, we will talk about next episode.
Ooh.
And so,
God willing.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. But the idea of not feeling like, oh, because I'm terrible, I have to do that. Instead, like, oh, how great is God? I want to keep striving to be more like
Guilt
Jesus.
is a terrible motivator, I think.
Nope.
It
Yeah.
can be maybe good short term. It can produce something, but just try and think about real world examples. But usually the thing that motivates people is a real drive, right? And that I don't think that can come from guilt.
Yeah.
It has to come from something firm,
Yeah.
which is God's grace through Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
The means, I think here I've written Bible prayer and gathering. Any thoughts on that?
That's all you need.
Yeah, I mean, like, God reveals himself through the word. So that's how we look to God and Jesus. what did you say? Gathering, we did speak about earlier. Keeping each other accountable, and just like fellowship with one another. And what did you say?
Prayer.
Okay. Well, yes, that is like a way of being able to communicate to God. And it's like, it is such a privilege to be able to communicate with God. Yeah.
Yeah. Who wants to be holy like God but doesn't even want to talk to him? Right? Doesn't make sense, right? And then I guess the final thing, the main thing, to gaze on God in Christ. Now, the sermon illustration that was used for this point was to imagine a jar, and you think you're imagining a jar, it's got air in it, right?
Yeah.
How do you get rid of the air inside the jar? What would you say if you had to get rid of the air in the jar?
I feel like I know the answer.
Empty it.
But does that work though? Because it's still air in the jar.
Why don't you just put your own air in it?
But it's the air though.
Carbon dioxide.
Anyway, the point of it is that you imagine something, the only real way to get rid of the air in a jar is to replace it with something else, something like water, right? And so instead of trying to be people who remove all this unholy, sinful self just by trying to get rid of things, actually a better way to think about it is, how can I replace what I have with something better? What can I look to that's going to help me to get rid of these things? What's the water that's going to get rid of the air in the jar?
That's Ethan 101, man. That's
I like that.
cold
Shout out
tip. Cold
Stephen
tip.
for the illustration, I think.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that? That's basically all we had lined up for.
Yeah.
Final takeaways across the whole thing.
Yeah, I guess shooting a question to you guys, everyone. Like, if you had to take away something from this episode, what would you try and take? Like, what would you say you took away from this episode?
I think mine would be just like, just read your damn Bible. Like, how are you going?
I have to bleep that.
yeah, come on, man. We're PG.
Sorry. Read your darn Bible. Like, how are you going to understand God's character if you're not even reading the word? Like, you can ruminate all you want. You can be like, God's holy, God's holy, God's holy. But it's like reading the word and coming face to face with who God says he is, and then engaging with God in prayer. That's how we'll fully understand. Not fully. That's how we will be able to better understand God's holiness, and that's how we become more like Jesus and how we live out our holiness more, by being in communion with God and with his word, I think. That's my takeaway.
Yeah.
That's Danguage right there.
Any other thoughts?
No, yeah. I feel like just reiterating like God's character, who he is, how great he is, and like how just small and insignificant we are. I feel like it really puts a lot of life's perspective, a lot of life's like troubles or issues into perspective. It's like none of it really matters. God is so holy and God is so great. And like it just feels so natural to live a life like so. But we are still suffering in sin. But yeah, it is still such a gift to do so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think super interesting. Even as a Christian, like, guys, I'll be real. This episode was super quick. We if you think Danguage has a lot of production behind scenes, it does not. But I think, coming into this episode, I think wasn't really too sure about holiness. But as we fleshed it out, I think even as a Christian, I'm challenged to think about how, we understand God is all this, all loving, all powerful, all this, all that. But actually, it all stems from one thing, and that's actually God being holy. And so something really important to think about, as to, thinking behind the why. If God is all this, why is that? It's because God is holy. And as we explore holiness, we ourselves as Christians can be holy and grow in that. And so I think, for me, my takeaway is just how crazy it is God is. I think that's just how awesome is it.
Indeed.
I would say probably my takeaway is coming back to Leviticus 19:2, where it says, where Moses is told to address the people of Israel, God's people, and say, "Be holy because I, the Lord your God, am holy." It has to come back to God and who God is when thinking about our lives and how they can be holy. And actually, in saying that, it actually has to come to Jesus, because without Jesus, there's no sense of us being holy, and it's kind of self-righteous. Can I achieve? And am I following God's rules or whatever your mindset is on that. But it has to come back to Jesus. Your holiness has to be rooted in what Jesus has done and how he's changed each of us for him and made us holy so that we can be in God's presence.
Fire.
All right.
Boom. Oh, the game.
Yeah, we got.
I'll read it one more time.
Yep.
Yeah, we got
One
to
more
go
time.
to
Read it
game.
one more time. Okay. The promotion.
Yep.
There is a middle-level manager up for the position of CFO at a large firm. He's basically guaranteed to get the job. He's known around the firm for his classy attire and expensive suits. However, at the interview, the manager's assistant shows up instead, dressed in a fancy pinstripe suit he borrowed from a friend. The interviewer, who doesn't actually know what the manager looks like, gives the assistant the job instead.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Does the fancy pink stripe suit matter?
Yep.
What do you guys think?
Okay, I thought I had it, but then I realized the title, the promotion. The story in my head is a demotion. What is the opposite of promotion?
Yeah, demotion.
Okay, but
What story
was
were you
the
thinking
story
of
you were
there?
thinking?
I was thinking, what is it? Rachel and Leah. You know how where they were swapped, but then it doesn't really. That's not a promotion.
Wait, where is this in the Bible?
You know, is it Jacob who gets married to them?
Where is
You
that in
know-
the Bible?
Yeah,
Old
yeah,
Testament,
yeah,
Old
yeah.
Testament.
Oh,
So he like
Jacob.
has to work. He's like, I want to marry your daughter, and he's like, okay, fine, work 7 years for me. And then after that, he works 7
Yeah,
years,
standards,
and
guys.
then afterwards, who's the father? Anyway, it's the father.
Okay. We got that. Okay.
Okay, that's what you
Sarah
reckon.
Luong.
That's my guess. My guess is that it's Jacob and Esau.
Oh, okay.
Because you know how
Okay, that makes
Why?
Esau
sense.
was firstborn, he was supposed to get the father's blessing. And then one day when he's out hunting, Jacob comes and his mom is like, put this furry thing on you
Okay, that
so
makes
that your father will think that you're Esau. And then go. And then Jacob goes and deceives his
That actually
father.
does make sense.
And then he gets the blessing.
That actually does make
or
sense.
my second one was the prodigal son.
I was thinking the prodigal son, but it doesn't make sense. So
I was also thinking of the 12 brothers in the coat.
Or Joseph.
Joseph,
Okay.
But then that doesn't make sense.
I second Sarah's.
I second
first.
Esau. I agree.
One of you is right, I will say.
Okay,
Of
I'll
all
sec-
the stories, yeah, it was Sarah got it right.
Hell yeah.
right.
I'm so sad I didn't
Hell
get that.
yeah.
The suit is because the guy is known for his suits, and so he puts on a pinstripe suit so that he pretends to be the other guy. That's the whole point of it. The guy he poses
Yeah,
as his
okay.
manager
That
so he
makes
can get the
sense.
promotion.
Wait, what
This is from Genesis 27. So it's Isaac giving his blessing, supposed to be for Esau,
Yeah.
given to Jacob because he's dressed up in.
That's very
Animal fur.
creative.
I'm
Yeah.
really sad I
impressed.
didn't get that.
I
I
had
was
no
really
clue.
hoping I would get the stories.
That's okay.
Oh,
see, it's
man.
hard. It's hard on the episode.
Yeah.
Well, I've listened to so many episodes and I got them, but
You
I
guys
didn't
should keep
get them.
track at home.
I listened to 0 episodes and I got it. So
What the heck?
What does that
I
say?
wonder if any people are like 6-0 right now.
Nah, none. That's
crazy.
low likelihood. Anyway,
Okay.
That's it. We're done.
thanks to Annabel and Sarah for hopping on the podcast. Actually, I can't lie. This has been a very insightful episode. I think it's one of my most insightful. Like even as myself, like I was not expecting these women to cook, but they
We had
cooked.
low
Literally.
expectations of us.
Literally.
Well, I had fun.
Yeah, I think if you put a graph of how much each person speaks across all the episodes of Danguage,
Yeah.
like this episode, my bar is like this.
Yeah, bro. Sarah and
'Cause,
Annabel. have been
you
talking.
guys have been been passionate to share what
We
you
love
believe,
yapping.
Aw.
and we are very happy to have had you on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed.
Yes.
hope you had a fun
So much
time.
fun.
Nice.
Season 2, please.
Yep.
Maybe.
Yeah, let's see what happens with your job next year. But this is a new question I always ask, or not always, but I asked last episode. If you guys had to shout out someone to hop on the next episode or like another episode on Danguage, who would
Just say
you
their
like to
name,
shout
first
out?
name, mate.
Just first name, and then we'll find them.
Mine is Lucy.
Okay, Lucy's okay. I'll find out who Lucy is.
You want a
but-
last name? I can give you a last name.
No. Do not give last name. But
Save the Patreon. The last name.
okay, so
Yeah.
Lucy and
I was just gonna say Johnny. That was just
Johnny. Okay.
Johnny in my mind.
Well, if you guys are on watching this
Oh,
episode,
dear.
we will find you and we'll contact.
Shout out Johnny and Lucy. Again, if you have any thoughts about the podcast, if you want to share things you think we should talk about, if you want to come on and talk with us about it, there's a Google form as always in the description. If there's any points you want to raise about what we talked about, please feel free to just chuck it in the comments of the Spotify or the YouTube or whatever, because it's super helpful, I think, for us to clarify. We like within the space of a podcast of an hour, you say so many things.
Yep.
You're bound to say something you haven't completely thought through, and so
Yep.
it can be helpful to clarify things for people who haven't picked up on what's been said. So we really appreciate any feedback that comes from that. Apart from that,
Yeah.
we'll see you next time.
Yay.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.